Well, here we are, still rocking this old T-shirt. Tuesday, the 15th. Yes, I have to use my glasses to see things close. 15th of July. Cheers, Doc. If you see this, I love this cup. Mm-hmm. So, folks, more updates on what I'm up to, and then I'll show some records. um, so first off, the project with Otis 12. So that's what I'm going to call it now, because when I say Otis 12, you know I mean Douglas O. Wesselman. We talked further yesterday, and it's on, and he has dubbed the collaboration Higgins 12. Fine with me, alphabetical. Sounds kind of cool, Higgins 12. He's going to premiere folk song number one on his Substack on Thursday the 17th. I've listened to it again after checking it. I actually didn't have to do any editing. When I listened back, the thing that I thought might be a little untoward was actually a feature. So I'm leaving it just as it is. It's not a mistake. It's like an interesting juxtaposition that happens between the bass, synthesizer bass at one point. Kind of makes for a neat little thing that happens. So that's getting its world premiere. I like calling it that. Thursday morning on Doug's Substack. I will leave a link to his Substack. You can subscribe. You can subscribe for free. You can pay if you want. That's one thing. On the Mike Watt front. Hey Mike, apparently Mike is a regular watcher, because I got a long from Mike yesterday after I talked about what I was thinking of doing to initiate a collaboration. He's all for it. He loves the idea of the birds. I'm over the moon. So, did I get started yesterday? Yes, I did. I sure did. Now, mainly what I achieved yesterday. Awesome, Mike. Just awesome. I just love your energy. So the main thing I did yesterday was sample the bird sounds. Is it still down here? Why do I put these records away? Anyway, I sampled some bird sounds and started to work on that. And let's see right quick. Some of the birds that I chose, and I'm still actually, the western grebe, Clark's grebe, the king rail, clapper rail. I sampled some swans, and we'll see and some geese, but we'll see. But the rails is what I'm starting with. I also did a preliminary bass, but it's not what it's going to be. It's a starting point. And once again, I'm just really very pleased and excited about these events. I'm honored to be now able to say I'm collaborating with Mike Watt, the amazing Mike Watt. I've already started the track, one thing at a time, okay? Which is also referencing the Otis 12 collaboration. So we've started with these two poems of his that I put music to. Um, are we planning to go further? Yes, we are. We're going to meet up next week to discuss further plans, um, a possible EP or album. What are the formats? Physically to work in. So I also want to mention that if you listen to the if you listen to the Watt from Pedro show that I did on Saturday, some of the music that is featured by me is from this most recent. This is my most recent CD release, DHX, and he played two tracks off of this. He played Dominoes, which I never really thought about it. He said, "You're making up your own words." Yeah, I guess so. And really didn't think of it. I just thought it was cool. Domino and notes, and then the way it relates to the piece of music. Dominoes and chemtrails. Oh, also Song for D. Song for Dennis. That's really what it is. So he played three tracks off of DHX. My latest. This is actually my latest CD, and you can buy it. It's on Bandcamp. Even though it's me recommending it and it's my music, but I recommend this. This is good stuff. This is very good stuff. Cheers. So I was out in the other room actually listening to the Higgins 12 project on my other stereo, because that's a thing that we do. Musicians, mixers, engineers, people do, is you'll listen to what you're working on different sound systems. Um, a small one is always a good idea, like listening to it on the radio. And while I was out there, I was looking at some of the shelves out there, and he just decided to grab some records to show. I haven't played any of them, so some of them I won't really have succinct things to say about, but I just have all these records, and it's like some of them just never get shown because they're part of a library, but I don't really play them. So these are some older records. What I have in mind about them is like I see that there's a series going on with other VC members who are attempting to collect all of the Acid Archives releases records. That's something that I can't endeavor to do because I don't have the money. But am I interested in that particular realm? The records that are like collected in this book, I think there's more than one edition of it, but the Acid Archives, primarily, it appears to be primarily 60s and 70s psychedelia, bubblegum, private press stuff like that, even Christian rock. I have some of those records, some originals, not very many. I have reissues, but I want to say again that I wouldn't want to collect everything in that book because some of that stuff in there is not of interest to me. But I like, as I've shared, the music of my childhood, the swinging 60s, what the Beatles birthed with psychedelia. I like that word, even though there's a lot of music that's not psychedelic that is from that era. So I just grabbed some random records to show some more of the collection. I don't know if anything will get played today. I did play yesterday. I did play the Maxophone. This is really good. Um, It's that good, busy, sort of classically oriented progressive rock. Really well played. I just ignore the vocals. And then I played the King Crimson. This is killer. That's the thing I got to say about. I have to give credit to Robert Fripp, his vision and his aesthetic. Is that King Crimson, up until their very last concerts in recent years, vital. So the like Circus, the version of Circus on here, it's really strong. And Tony Levin's bass playing, master bass player, he elevates music when he plays and gives it that flavor of his. You know it's Tony. Ooh. So yes, creativity is activated. Creativity is activated. I also want to kind of shout out to my homes, James Quato and Blake DeForest. They're on the road right now, just a small Midwest tour, but they've already played two, not festivals, but like multi-band type shows. They recently played with 311 and the Urge. The 311 is originally from Omaha. Those guys were inspired in part by me, my band RAF, to start 311. They told me. But it's pretty cool because it was the Urge. The Urge had Blake and James, the horn section of the Josh Hoyer band, joined them for a couple of songs on stage. They're doing some other festivals this summer on the same bill as people like Thundercat. I'm really happy for them. The band, as far as the business, have moved up a notch regarding their bookings. They're still playing clubs and restaurants, but they're getting these better shows. I love my people. So when it comes to, I just have all kinds of music. So this is not specifically anything. It's just some that they're older and they were like out in the B section. I could do this all day. A's and I just thought, and these aren't all psychedelic. They just kind of grabbed my attention. Let me show these records, okay? I did actually play this last night. The Bubblegum Machine. This is going back to the great 60s. Oh, that reminds me, I want to say it, okay, before I forget. So, back to the Higgins 12 project. Folk song number 2, which is about the black girl Vivian Strong, who was murdered by the cops. There's a plaque in Omaha dedicated to her, which actually I didn't even realize until I saw where Otis 12 has a picture of it in conjunction with our project. And that happened in 1969. I was 14 years old. It is as I basically remembered it. I was seeing her kind of from a distance. She was one of the other kids that played in the area where I was going with I think it was with my sister Adrian, for this day art program. And she caught my eye. So when she was murdered by the cops, it enraged the entire community, but that hurt. You know, I had that girl on my mind. Life is something else. So anyway, back to this stuff. This helped me to remember to share that little fact. The Bubblegum Men. This is some pop bubblegum, like the name says. It's very much like the 1910 Fruit Gum Company. I find this record interesting because it's distributed by ABC Records. Here's the original inner sleeve. ABC Dunhill and Probe But this is the only record I've ever seen by the Senate Record Group. And that name for the label, Senate. So whose money was making this happen? Those connections behind the scenes, the untold stories, where the money comes from. It's always interested me, actually. You know, when you come to find out the backstory about how things happen. Like, for instance, I watch Billy Corgan's show. Every time he has a new guest, I watch. Billy Corgan is slightly annoying, but at the same time, I can relate to what he's doing and what's happening in his life. He just interviewed Mickey Dolenz, and come to find out that the Monkees movie head financed the movie Easy Rider. Interesting. The Jack Nicholson connection and all of that. Those hippies. This is not an original, but I think this is in that Acid Archives. See, it just kind of out of the box. And this is one of those old records that has increased in value over the years for a reason beyond the music, because this is just okay. This is not great. I'm going to have to play it again, and maybe I'll eat my words. But when I found this reissue years ago, it was kind of about that. There was kind of a hype or a story about this record, so I grabbed it. I have to play it again. This is not psych at all, but it was like, I said, well, let me show this. Back Door, a primarily instrumental band from England that had this is weird, it's sort of bluesy, sort of jazzy, sort of weird. They made a couple albums. I have this one, 8th Street Blues. Again, partly it's like I don't watch a lot of videos, but I watch enough to know that there's music that never gets mentioned ever. And this is a band. I don't think I've ever seen anyone talk about Back Door. This is the sort of record where I would think possibly someone who might have this, Michael P. Dawson might have this. If you see this, Michael, do you have Back Door in your collection? Ron Asbury, Colin Hodgkinson on bass guitar, and Tony Hicks on drums. Those names ring a bell for some other things that they play on, but I can't recall what those things are right now. This is soul, but obscure. Aura, and another one where it's like, oh, I like that cover. The record doesn't quite live up to it, in my opinion, but it's a great cover, and the record is actually pretty good. Aura. Midwest band, I think they're from Chicago. Doing the horn thing. Okay, when Blood, Sweat, and Tears in Chicago and Chase and all those bands were blowing up big time. Ball and Jack. The lead singer is good, but not good enough to pull off this portrait. He does not rise that much above the band. You know how lead singers can often be the ticket to a band's success or not. And so here, it might look like he's on a big ego trip, but probably everyone in the band agreed to try and push him as a personality, but he's not strong enough for that. Now here's an original, slightly beat, but I think this is one in the Acid Archives book. And this is a good album, Auto Salvage. There's a slight, these guys can really play, so you hear that in some of the arrangements. Slightly classical, slightly pastiches of old music styles, which was part of psychedelia. This is a good one, Auto Salvage. and an original pressing. This is not psych. It gets called prog, but it's not. I don't think of it as prog. I just think it's kind of an interesting band. Babe Ruth, Amar Caballero. It's interesting. There's Spanish flavor to this band, flamenco and stuff. Like the band Carmen. You ever heard the band Carmen? A few more. Here's one I haven't played for a while, but this again is very indicative of those times, the end of the 60s and 70s. Bamboo, where you get this mixture of the whole hippie thing, where it's like back to the country. You know what I'm saying? This is good though. I remember liking this. Bamboo. And there's some names. Dave Ray. Again, these. That's the thing that you'll find about these old records is that some of these people trying to make a name for themselves at the time go on to do other work in the music business. Now here's just an oddity. Lord Buckley, a most immaculately hip aristocrat. And this indeed is something I found years ago, back when the good old Goodwill days. I found this at a Goodwill or a Salvation Army. It's on Frank Zappa's Straight Records label. Always a thrill to find a record on the actual label. And Lord Buckley was a entertainer. Maybe he was thought of as a comedian. I listened to a little bit of this last night, and it was weird because it's like there's an aspect of the way he's talking that is seemingly, it's like hip talk, like he's almost trying to be black, but not exactly. And real word association is like one thing leads to another, and he's kind of off the beaten path. Pretty wild, Lord Buckley. I guess he was quite a character. This is not an original, but this is one of those albums. Bubble Puppy, they had the hit Hot Smokin' Sassafras, but the whole album is good. And they used to be called Demian, too. I don't have that album. Bubble Puppy. Yeah, these old records. Now this one, I'm just showing it just to show the variety in my collection. I have Buckingham Nicks. I've had this forever. This is a good album. It's basically Fleetwood Mac without Fleetwood Mac. This is what Fleetwood Mac became. Very strong songwriting, playing on this album already. Very good. Very good. Fleetwood Mac is so good that it's like you hear it way too much here in the Midwest. But when I'm in the car, most of the time when Fleetwood Mac comes on, I leave it on, as opposed to some other artists that they play too much that I just can't stand anymore, like Billy Joel. Billy Joel is good, but I've had it with Billy Joel. I'm sorry to hear about his health. Bless him. I did see Billy Joel before he made it big, and he was excellent. And it's unfortunate that he snubbed his drummer Vito, because, you know, I've seen the interviews where Vito hit on hard times, tried to ask Joel for some help, and Billy denied him. I think that's unfortunate, because I remember the concert. The drummer was a big part of the excitement. Back to the records. I have more of their albums, but I just pulled this one, Beggar's Opera, U.S. pressing on Verve. Of note, Ricky Gardner, the guitarist in the band, is on some David Bowie records. I think he's on Fame. This is good stuff. Again, proggy. Good stuff. I love the cover. I think this is another Hypnosis cover. Now this one I grabbed because I need to look it up. I think this is the band Higgins, but they were renamed Blonde for the U.S. market. You know, again, trying to do something, the teen pop idol sort of way that you sell records and products according to the face. I think the original name of this band is Tages. And haven't listened to this in a while, but this is pop. Good though. It's still here because it's good. Blonde. Here's one that I definitely want to play today because I forget it, but it's like this one is kind of low key, but really good. And they have another album I'd like to find. Blonde on Blonde with the album Contrasts. This is kind of prog. It's just good. Rock music from the 70s. Good cover too. That's a good graphic. And once again, at least one or two of these band members have done other things. Les Hicks and Gareth Johnson are the two names that stand out to me. Oh yes, and it's a white label promo. Blonde on Blonde. Record collecting is fun. It really is fun. You can't do this with a playlist. You can't do this with your phone. You know what I mean? You can listen to music on the phone, but this physical interaction, I love it. Someone asked me about Blood, Sweat, and Tears. I ain't late to the game, people. Child is father to the man. Blood, Sweat, and Tears. Al Cooper started this band. And from the very get-go, it was an ambitious view of what to do with the music, combining jazz, classical, and folk with players, you know, with the horn section, people can really play. And in my opinion, this is a classic album that's just been kind of forgotten. Blood, Sweat, and Tears. And I've had several copies of this over the years. One of my favorite songs, Sometimes in Winter, is on here. That's a classic, beautiful song. Sometimes in Winter. Of course, this whole album is extremely powerful and holds up to this day. David Clayton Thomas, Canadian, right? If I'm not mistaken, this person is also Canadian. Was, I don't know if he's still alive. The Steppenwolf Connection, Mars Bonfire. The person who wrote the song Born to Be Wild. And it's on here. He's written some other songs. This is a good album. Mars Bonfire. The last thing I'll show this morning, because we're getting on a half hour, because like I say, I can do this all day. I really can. So I showed you where I bought that Graham Bond record. It wasn't that long ago that I bought this Graham Bond album, Holy Magic. And again, like I say, as a collector with interest in the history of English rock, Graham Bond is important. Don't play these much, but these belong in the collection. That's what I'll share this morning, okay? So I'm going to end up by going back to the beginning by saying the Higgins 12 collaboration is happening. The second folk song number 2 is out on his Substack. Folk song number 1 is coming on the 17th on Thursday. Eventually, There'll be some sort of physical or representation of this music through me on my Bandcamp, but we're going to talk about that, Doug and I, about how we're going to approach that. Also, I want to thank Mike Watt for being a real friend and having me on his show again, and being excited about collaborating with me. The email that he sent me is long, and Mike has a real interesting mind. He writes the way he thinks. And that excites me. That he is excited about making some music with me. So that's on my plate for today, is to do more work on that. Hopefully have something to send to Mike Watt before the end of the week to work on. And also, I want to mention that again, Mike Watt from Pedro show featured 3 songs from my latest CD. I didn't even think about saying it like that on the show because I'm not a huckster promo man. I never say subscribe to my channel. Never. What's the point? You'll do what you want. The only thing I do is try to point attention to my music now and then, like now. As featured on the Watt from Pedro show. Okay, family. Hope everything is all right. Take care, people. Stay in touch. Regarding the comments, someone asked about, I think, Gangstar. No Gangstar records, but I like them. Okay, peace.